Hey everyone, it's Bill Soriano from Pittsburgh, and today I wanted to make a quick video just to give you guys some tips on how to respond to some of the more common job interview questions that you may face next time you go on a job interview. Now, these job interview answers that I give you will help you have the best chance at making a good impression at your interview and getting hired now. Now, obviously, before we even get into answers, you want to make certain that you're at least 15 minutes early for your interview, that you've dressed appropriately, that you have extra copies of your resume, and any training documentation, as well as articles or press releases on yourself from other companies that you work for. Now, companies nowadays don't always ask some of the standard type questions. Questions like, tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? Why do you want to work here? Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. Depending on the company, some of them may still do that. But what I've found is that companies are much more interested in other things. Mainly your employment history and also your behaviors on the job. So they've come up with some different questions to try to figure out this information when they interview you. So they're going to go over your resume and they're going to check for short periods of employment, and they're going to ask you, why have you had so many jobs in such a short period of time? So if you have that situation, you need to be able to answer that to their satisfaction. They're also going to look for gaps in employment. Gaps for employments to employers look like jobs that you've had that you didn't really do real good at, something happened, and those employers are going to speak negatively about you. So they're going to ask you about those gaps, and you need to be able to answer those questions in advance. You need to be ready. Now, they're going to probably start off the interview with a question relating to your skill set. So if you're applying for a bartender position, they may look at the places you worked as a bartender or maybe a food server and ask you about those places. Okay? And you're going to want to go into detail. You're going to want to tell them what shift you worked, what job duties you performed. You know, you're going to want to have all that information ready for them in advance in your head. You're also going to want to tell them about any training that you've had to help you perform your job better. Okay, so they're going to want to know about those last couple positions. Again, if you're applying for a bartender, they're going to want to know how you performed the last couple places that you worked at as a bartender. Now, after that, you're going to run into the tricky behavior interview type questions. Okay, here they're going to try to trick you. They're going to ask you questions to find out how you reacted to certain situations in the workplace. And they're going to want specific examples of what they're asking. For instance, instead of just asking you if you've ever had trouble with a supervisor before, they know you're going to answer no to that, right? Otherwise, it's probably going to disqualify you for employment. Okay? They're going to say something like, everyone goes about their job differently. Can you tell us about a time that you were asked by a supervisor to do something differently than you normally do it? You see how they're going to phrase that? So they're going to want you to come up with a situation you had at work where you were doing something the way you're used to doing it, your supervisor told you to do it differently, and they're going to want to know how you reacted to that. So if you were used to slicing your limes for your drinks as a bartender and your supervisor told you to cut them into wedges, that's what they want to know. You're going to say, hey, I'm used to doing slices, my supervisor wanted me to cut them into wedges, and then hopefully you're going to go on to tell them that you said, no problem, I can do that, that works for me, and that you started slicing them into wedges, and the supervisor never had to tell you about it again. That's hopefully what happened, and that's hopefully what you're going to tell them. That's a pretty easy question, but another question, a little bit harder that they might ask you is, they might say something like, teamwork is very important to our company. Can you tell us about a time when you had a busy or very stressful day at work that was very difficult and required you to work as a team? So see, they're going to want you to talk. They're going to want you to tell a story. They want to see what you're going to say. Okay? And that's why it's so important to be ready. You're going to want to tell them what made the day so difficult, what happened, what your role was in it, what did you do specifically to make it easier on not only yourself, but hopefully on your other associates or employees as well, and what was the end result. So they're always looking for these three parts in these behavior interview questions. What happened? What was your role? What did you do? What was the result? And if you don't hit on all three of these topics, you're going to lose points. Okay? You have to be ready. Again, I've said this 5 times in this video probably. You have to be ready for these tricky behavior interview type questions. They're the most important ones, and they're difficult to rehearse, and they're impossible to make up. If you try to lie, if you try to make a story up or make a situation up, they're going to see right through you. Believe me. Now, after these behavior type questions, they're probably going to ask you if you have any questions for them. And this is really your last chance to make a good first impression and show them that you've actually done some research on the company that you're applying for. Okay, so you're going to want to have some questions for them. So hopefully you could do a Google search. You could find out some new information about the company. Maybe if it's a sales job, there's some a new company, new clients that they're going after. Maybe if it's in the food industry, there's a new trend that they're starting to implement regarding food or beverage. So you're going to want to do some research. Or if you know someone that already works for them, then you're ahead of the game. You can pick their brain and you can get some information from them. Okay? Now, after you've answered, after you've gone through that answer to the question, before you leave, you're going to want to make sure that you do ask them, if you don't already know, what the salary range is for the position. Also, you want to know what their deadline is to bring somebody new on. When do they want to make a decision by? This way you'll know when they're going to get back to you. And of course, that's the last thing you want to say to them before you leave is, when can I expect you to get back to me with an answer? And will you get back to me even if it's a no? So that way you know if you have a timeline as to when they're going to get back to you, and you're also going to know if you need to get back to them. Now, after watching this short video, you should be prepared for anything that they throw at you. Remember, the main thing is the behavior interview type questions. So you should be ready for them now. However, if you are still worried about your job interview answers and you want to make certain that you're 100% prepared for your next job interview, click on the link below this video for additional support. Again, this is Bill Soriano from Pittsburgh. I hope I've been helpful, and make it a great day.